in the metropolitan area of Buenos Aires, we have a public and national company of water and sewage services. But we have a history of privatization in the 90s and before a national company. So we have a history of public services and private services a while. The company always needed a lot of money in order to cover, especially the areas that are less rentable. I mean, the areas that are far away from the city, the peripheral areas, or the vulnerable areas perhaps in the middle of the city or in the middle of downtown, but where people with really vulnerable conditions lives. In order to get that, these companies needed to have the opportunity to get loans with international banks, especially here in Argentina, like World Bank and IDB and CAF are the most popular ones that have really like huge loans with the national company in terms of getting coverage. And that's good. I mean, okay, at least we have funded, no? We have funds to get that coverage. But the problem is that the interests of the company and especially of banks is really an issue in terms of getting a total coverage for the area. We had for example, in the privatization moment in the decade of the 90s, you can see there that having a private company for public services was not the same as having a public company as we have now, in terms of which are the goals of the expansion of the services. The goal is to get rentability, I mean to go to those areas where we can have people that pay the money, or understanding that it's a health issue, it's a public issue, and we need to go there no matter what. And that was really different. And that's something that we are discussing right now in terms of the debate about privatization or reprivatization. So thinking about public banks, but also thinking about public companies for water and for public services in general, is not only who loan the money or who expand the works needed to get the expansion of the services, who do the expansion, right? Is thinking which are those goals and who define it, right? In my experience studying the water sector in Argentina for more than 10 years, we can see that it is important that a public service as water and sewage, that are vital and essential services for life and for having quality life, it is really important that a state understand the component of public service. It's a public service, it's not a private service. It's not good to have economic values around the public service. That doesn't mean that we need to be inefficient, right? So we can argue and we can discuss how public companies could do it better. That's a good discussion to do, especially after, for example, in this case, more than 10 years of re-statization services, or more than half a century in the last century of public national company. We need to have that discussion. But that doesn't mean going back to experience as privatization that we already have it, and not only Argentina, a lot of countries in the world experiences it, without any results that shows that the private company will be more efficient. Going back to the relationship between public companies of public services, in this case water, and public bank, for me, what is behind that discussion is the role of state, and who will promote the universalization of public services in countries with the unequal conditions that we have here, especially in Latin America, right? Where the people that doesn't have services is the people that cannot afford it. Essentially, we have different situations, but we need to get there. We have a coverage around, 80% in water in general, no? A bit less if we are in the total country, but in the metropolitan area, 76, something like that, for water services, and 56% for sewage services. That's not a lot. So, like more than half of the population have services. We are in 2025, right? We need to have more coverage than that. But the thing is that the people who now don't have the possibility to access to secure water is the people that lives really far away, is the people that lives in popular neighborhoods. Popular neighborhoods is what we call like slums or informal settlements in urban areas, that of course a company won't go there for their own intentions because it's not profitable to go there. But we're not talking about a new product of the market. We are talking about water. We're talking about something that is important in order to avoid illness really important for all the community. So I think that showing the relationship of public banks with public companies of public services gives us the opportunity to rethink the role of public and the role of state, right? And in this moment, with a lot of different positions of arguments in terms of which is the market, which is the state, which should be the role of each one, I think that at least the academia sector needs to rethink and to put into the table this debate, and especially showing the experiences that we had before in each country that shows that those arguments about the efficiency, about the capacity of the private sector, or the other way around, the incapacity of state or the inefficiency of the state, should be revised. I insist that doesn't mean not thinking about the things that could be better, but we need also to think how we measure efficiency